we only have 18 weeks to take some risks. We took a big one with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts last week, and by God, we're taking another one in week 4. You're watching the perfect lineup where Josh Engleman and myself, Dave Loughran, try and take down a tournament with one of these 3 beauties we're going to build out right here in today's video. Of course, I'm going to build 3 of them. I'm going to lay the foundation, put the framework together. Josh is going to take it over to the single lineup sims, maybe throw some randomness in there, maybe not, and see what we get. Of course, if you guys aren't on Tails yet, you do know every single week we are putting a exclusive perfect lineup video only to Tails. Link is down there in the description to follow me, to follow Josh. 100% free. You don't need a credit card, anything like that. Come follow us. Tail our bets. Check out all of the DFS data. And as you can see on the screen, the Tails exclusive lineup dropped 187 DraftKings points last week, despite Knicks and Troy Franklin not even being good. So I got a good contrarian one. We'll try and run that back. And as always, if you want to win a month of NFL Sims Max, I'm going to make it a little bit tougher this week, but it's going to be fun. Name who you think is going to be the highest scoring player on the main slate. DraftKings points, highest scoring overall player. There's a very good chance that only one of you gets this, which means there's no wheel spin. You just get the free month. So tap that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave that comment down below, and let's make it happen. All right, I want to kick it off with a traditional build here because I do really love this, and I still think we can get different elsewhere in the lineup. That's why Josh is going to run the Sims, right? We're going to see if we can get leverage elsewhere. I want to go with the Rams stack here. They have the most concentrated passing offense in football, and quite frankly, it's not even close. Puka Nacua has a 38.5% target share. Davante Adams at 30.8% as well. And they've combined for, 70% of Matthew Stafford's targets, 83% of the team air yards. How do we not want to do this? I mean, Kyren Williams is 3rd in target share at 8.8%. Meanwhile, Nacua and Adams are 5th and 8th in expected fantasy points, respectively. And Davante Adams has actually produced far under his expected fantasy totals. So that's actually good for us going into the week. That's why he's only $6,200 still. I'm recording this video on Friday morning, so if Adams doesn't play, that would kind of suck. Sean McVay said the hamstring injury isn't likely to affect his availability on Sunday. But even if he doesn't, I may be willing to consider a Jordan Whittington stack alongside Puka Nacua. If so, and we get this news, I'll throw one in the Tails over there as well, so we can all look at this one together and we'll sim it out. But anyway, I like this stack, and I want to run it back with a Michael Pittman Jr. here for a few reasons. One, Pittman is top 10 in the league in yards per route run among all wide receivers with 10-plus targets. He's been the co-target leader, essentially, with Tyler Warren. I mean, Daniel Jones seems to have a real connection with him. And Ahkello Witherspoon is on the IR for the Rams, which means they remain undersized in the secondary. We saw when Kevin Patula started actually getting his head out of his ass and throwing the football last week in the second half, A.J. Brown dominated that undersized secondary. So that's what I like to do. It is going to be a relatively popular 2-man stack with the Pittman run back. So let's see if Josh can get us some leverage on the rest of the build.
Here we go. Lineup number 1 in the single lineup simulator at Stokastic.com. And I'm very interested to see what gets put in the rest of this lineup and how well it grades out because of ownership. Because we're going to the Rams. We've got Matt Stafford from Loughy immediately into the lineup with Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. That's 32% ownership and 30% ownership right now. This is a heavy chalk start, but we also have Michael Pittman on the bring back, opposite side of this game for sure, but just 5% owned. And I'm hoping that can make this a little bit more unique, but we need to find out what's going to be in the rest of this lineup. And we do that by clicking complete this lineup, which will give us the optimal plays for the amount of salary and roster spots that we have left. And we're taking on quite a bit of ownership here. Omarion Hampton goes right in. He's 20% owned. We get Scatabo, though, in only at 11.5. That's a little bit more reasonable for the rest of this lineup. Tyler Warren goes in at tight end. Jacoby Myers hits the flex spot. We get the Lions defense as well. That spends every dollar of our salary. We've got the lineup made, but we need to know how it looks, and we find out by clicking Run Lineup Simulation. And even with some pretty heavy ownership, we're still grading out pretty nicely. 57% sim ROI, 0.2% chance to win, a 40% cash rate, and a 2.3% likelihood of being in the top 10% of lineups. This is a great start, especially if you've got your eyes on this Rams stack. Time to handle the giveaway from the week 3 version of the perfect lineup. You needed to guess who was going to have the most passing yards on the main slate, and that answer ended up being Justin Herbert. 10 of you were able to get that answer right, and now we are spinning the wheel to find out who wins the giveaway. If your name pops up, take a screenshot when it does. Email support@stokastic.com to claim your prize. And that prize is going to AF6 Retired. As I said, if this is you, screenshot. Email support@stokastic.com. Claim the prize.
Lineup number 2, we're going back to Vegas. The Sims loved Geno Smith stacks last week. I wish I got more of them. But, I mean, it won the millie. Now, granted, Trey Tucker was the reason why, and I don't want to go to Tucker in this lineup, even though he's cheap. I'm not going to try and chase that. If you want to, go for it. I think Geno will get a bit of ownership this week, and it's not because of the millie win. It's going to be because this Bears secondary stinks. I'm okay with it, though. Jalen Johnson, phenomenal corner. He's on the IR. And the problem is the Bears are not getting enough pressure on the quarterback to kind of mask those inefficiencies in the secondary, given that his absence is a glaring absence. They're 30th in pass rush win rate as well this year. Now, the Raiders can't block the run to save their lives, but they have done a decent job of pass protection, which is good enough for me. I think Geno and company are going to have some good opportunities here. Probably a good buy low on Bowers, who is below 6K. You pair him with Jacoby Myers and Geno Smith, you're not paying a ton for this stack at all. And the Raiders have a 25-point implied total here, which is not bad for a Raiders team that has looked pretty awful throughout the first 3 games. So we'll run it back with Rome Odunze. Now, don't feel like you're obligated to always have a run back. You're not, but I want to see how this sims out, and I think it'll be okay. Odunze is still only $6,300, so he's already a standalone value in and of itself. Team high 28% target share, 41% of air yards have gone to him as well. And I know we don't care much about air yards, but he's top 5 in the league in air yards, okay? He's getting targets downfield, and the reason that matters is Caleb Williams has actually been good at throwing the deep ball this year. I mean, consider this for a second. He's attempted 14 deep passes, and he's completed 7 of them for big yardage, 2 touchdowns, and 7 of them, 50%, have gone to Rome Odunze. Believe it or not, he's actually been pretty good. Now, stick around after Josh sims this. The third lineup is where we're going to get weird and where you're going to be able to get 25% off any month of the sims that you want.
Same lineup style for the second one that we had for our first lineup, but very different ownership for the players we have. Loughy went to Geno Smith. We've got Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. Now, Myers is still getting some ownership at 24%. Bowers just at 9.5. That's a very different start than what we had with the Rams for lineup 1. We're bringing back Rome Odunze at 11% ownership. So right out of the gate, our baseline, our quarterback, our 2 wide receivers, our bring back, much less owned than we had in the first lineup. I added 5% randomness because we've got a lot of guys with projections that are in and around each other. I don't want the same construction over and over, so I want to wiggle those numbers a little bit. So now when I click complete this lineup, we're going to fill out the rest of it, and we should have quite a bit more to play with than we did for the first one. So at running back, we end up getting Omarion Hampton again, but we also get James Cook. So we've made a little bit of a switch there. Devontae Adams made it into the first lineup by choice, made it into the second lineup just because he looks really good. Drake London is in this lineup as well. And then we go to the Browns D, the opposite side of the defense from what we had in lineup number 1. Very different construction here. What will it look like when we click run lineup simulation? We took a lineup with essentially the same projection as the first. We cut the overall ownership by 10 percentage points, and we blow it out of the water. 141 sim ROI, a 0.4% chance to win, a 43% cash rate, and a 3.2% chance at that top 10% lineup. This one absolutely smashed. You're gonna have a tough time building something that looks a little bit better than this, but I still gotta hear what Loughy has to say about our next lineup.
All right, I told you guys we were going to take a risk, but before we do, if you want to get 25% off any NFL monthly package, core or sims, which includes every single tool that we have for NFL, including the contest simulator, the single lineup sim, the pre-contest sims, late swap, ownership, boom bust, top stacks, every single tool, use promo code PERFECT25, and that'll get you 25% off any NFL monthly sub. Or make it simple on yourself. Simply click the link in the description, one for core or one for max, whichever you want, and that promo will load automatically and you don't have to do a thing. PERFECT25, you're straight in the door with 25% off any NFL monthly package. All right, so this is what I want to do. I think it's a bit of a weird build, but I love it. The reason I like Drake May is because he has legitimate passing upside and legitimate rushing upside. And, you know, you look at last week, this team had 5 costly turnovers. And somehow 2 were from May, by the way, a sack, fumble, and an interception in first and goal or third and goal. Despite all of that, they were still in position to tie the game against the Steelers late. Like, by all standards, they should have won that game and they lost. He's proven to be a significant threat, and I like him here. I don't love that there's no clear number 1 in the passing game, but I do think Hunter Henry makes sense as an attachment. He's May's primary red zone target. He also leads the league leads the team with a pretty decent 21% target share, and I'll tell you why that's important. He's $4,000, right? He's $4,000. So when you look at that price point and you consider that Drake May's $5,500, we're not spending much at all for a guy that could have a 2-touchdown game against the Carolina team that has really one good corner, and he certainly isn't going to be on Hunter Henry. Now, here's where we get odd. I want to go off the beaten path and get to Trevion Henderson. Why? Because Ramondre Stevenson, who has a long storied history of fumbling, just lost 2 fumbles last week, one of them in the Steelers' end zone. Antonio Gibson, also one of the highest fumble rates over the last 5 years, he lost a fumble on top of Ramondre Stevenson's 2. So if there was ever a time for, you know, a guy in Henderson who they spent legitimate draft capital on and the fan base is clamoring to get him more involved. So if there was ever a time for Henderson to take over, it's now. And I'd rather get there early when he's $5,200 against the Panthers than late when he's $7,000. Plus, he's a 5.5-point home favorite against the Carolina team that's allowing almost 5.5 yards per attempt through the first 3 weeks of the season. And they haven't even had that difficult of matchups. Between May, Henry, and Henderson, we're looking at $14,700 for that 2-man stack plus May. And then if you add in Teteroa McMillan, who is the clear top pass catcher for the Panthers and is proven very capable as a rookie first rounder, we're just over $20,000.
Boy, are we rolling the dice on this one. Loughy just hooked us up with some very low-owned baselines here. Drake May in, Hunter Henry in. They are both 9% owned. Trayvon Henderson into the running back spot at just 1.67% ownership. And then we're bringing McMillan back in this one at 11.5%. The construction of this one, in comparison to the first lineup and the second lineup, dramatically different. We got the same 5% randomness. So when we complete this lineup, I am very anxious to see how much ownership do we eat for the rest of this lineup, because we are already contrarian enough. And we've got a lot of similar pieces to the first 2 lineups, but I think they fit here quite a bit more than they did previously. Although I don't want to talk too much smack on that second lineup. It was exceptional. We get Omarion Hampton again. Now, if you're playing a 3 set of lineups, maybe you want to manually swap him out. You can certainly move these things around. Devontae Adams in once again. Jacoby Myers in once again. But now we're also adding a 38% owned Christian McCaffrey. We also go to the Texans defense. This lineup being, or at least the core that Loughy provided us, being so low owned allows us to pull in a 30% owned Devontae Adams, a 38% owned Christian McCaffrey. This is the structure that I like. I'm excited for this one. I don't know if we can catch lineup number 2, but I think we're going to absolutely beat lineup number 1. Now, before I touch on this data, don't forget, links in the description to sign up at Stokastic. We've got the promo running. You don't want to miss it. And you should be following myself, Loughy, and the rest of the Stokastic crew over on Tails if you're looking for some sports betting stuff. We split the difference with lineup number 3, 77% sim ROI, a 0.2% chance to win, a 45% cash rate, and that 2.6% chance at a top 10% lineup. And you could easily make tweaks if you want to. We've got all 3 lineups here on the screen. They were all basically projected the same. The first lineup at 143, the second lineup at 143, the third lineup at 145, but we took on a little bit more ownership to do so. I think you could improve that lineup if you wanted to, the Drake May lineup, by just swapping out a little bit of ownership and finding some similar players. That's what you can do in the single lineup simulator. I think you should take the second lineup because it seems like it's the perfect lineup.